German-born Debbie Mielke has been on death row in Arizona for 13 years for conspiring to kill her son. The evidence, a statement by one of the killers, a certified schizophrenic, and a confession presented by a police officer currently under investigation for allegedly fabricating a large number of similar confessions.
Phoenix, Arizona, December 1989. Roger Scott, James Stiers, and Debra Mielke were all charged in the murder of 4-year-old Christopher Mielke.
In January 1991, the Arizona Supreme Court sentenced 27-year-old Debbie to death by lethal injection. The sole evidence supporting the murder charge, a confession extracted by Chief Investigator Armando Saldate, is highly dubious. It was believed Debbie Mielke had paid her roommate Jim Stiers and his friend Roger Scott to kill her son.
In a 30-minute interrogation that was not tape-recorded, Saldate claimed Mielke had made a full confession to her involvement in the crime. His police report of the confession would turn out to be critical. Jim Stiers would later admit he went with a boy and Roger Scott to the desert, but always insisted the murder was Scott's spur-of-the-moment idea. The state offered Roger Scott a deal to testify against Mielke about the alleged conspiracy, but Scott rejected the offer.
I didn't conspire with anybody. I wasn't there. I didn't murder anybody. I loved my son more than anything. So I tried to be a good mother, yes. And being a mother was something that I absolutely enjoyed. Mr. Saldate rolled a chair directly in front of me, said my son was found murdered and that I'm under arrest for it. And I immediately screamed out to him, what? While I was sitting there crying and sobbing, he was reading Miranda rights. And I could hear what he was saying, but I really wasn't comprehending.
She testified that she spent much of her 30-minute interrogation trying to fend off Saldate's aggressive questioning.
There was absolutely no confession whatsoever. I totally disagree with his entire account of his report. He completely twisted things I said, and some statements he attributed to me were completely made up. I did not make a confession to that man at all.
Her husband, Mark Mielke.
The detective said that he'd taken handwritten notes during the one-on-one interview and later typed them up into a tersely worded document. Saldate acknowledged paraphrasing most of Debbie's statements in his report, then throwing out the notes.
If you've got a confession from somebody, you want that to be witnessed. You want it to be signed. You want it to be recorded because you've got it.
Former DEA agent Kirk Fowler worked for Mielke's defense and attended the trial.
I don't want to be sarcastic, but that's what they do in beautiful downtown Baghdad. Police officer, they says, oh, I got a confession. That's it. It's the most disgraceful police work I've ever seen in my life.
Detective Saldate declined to speak to American Justice about this case. In the witness box, the 21-year police veteran stood his ground.
Well, number one, was there a confession? Is this something that Saldate had manufactured, the police officer? And there is maybe a history of tainted confessions in his cases.
In this case, Judge Cheryl Hendricks decided to allow Detective Saldate's testimony about Debbie Mielke's disputed statement. Of course, there are many cases where a police officer takes a confession and no recording is made, no other non-police witnesses are present, and judges still allow it. But those confessions are typically signed by the defendant. Debbie Mielke didn't review or sign her statement. A fact many experts will tell you is highly unusual and smacks of sloppy police work at the very least.
Debbie Mielke has been kept in isolation in Perry Hill ever since. Armando Saldate is believed by some to have falsified evidence in a further 25 cases. A federal court will re-examine Debbie's case and may reopen it.
I'm there to write down what that person is telling me.
The defense attorneys insist they need more information about the detective. At trial, Judge Hendricks denied a defense request to examine Saldate's personnel files. A few years before Mielke's trial, Judge Hendricks had received a public censure from the Arizona Supreme Court for what the court called careless decisions that violated the canons of judicial conduct. In 1997, she was dismissed from hearing criminal cases.
And Roger Scott confessed and Debra Mielke confessed.
What did you confess in the end to Mr. Saldati?
Nothing. There was no confession. He made that up.
It's for a police officer to say, I got a confession. No witnesses, no recordings, you don't get to see it, sign it, he throws his notes away. And that's considered good, valid evidence in the state of Arizona.
This is a solid case. You know, it's well investigated, fully developed, completely litigated, no errors of any consequence.
And the law says today in Arizona that a police officer can get you alone for 10 minutes, you can be executed. You don't need no witnesses, no evidence, no nothing.
Why are you not giving any interviews on the case of Debbie Mielke?
I'm not going to talk about that.
Why you're not going to talk about this confession?
Ma'am, we're going to end it now. I'm going to end this interview right now. Okay? Thank you.
Why are you not going to talk about it?
Thank you.
Can you tell me why you didn't tape record the confession? Mr. Saldati?
Please leave my home.
Why are you not going to tell me why you didn't tape record it?
Please leave my home. Thank you.
Mr. Saldati, why aren't you willing to talk about it?